Welcome to the show. Welcome, Abhishek, to the
Thank
show.
you.
So it's really a privilege to kind of have this event in which we'll talk about the book, Digital Transformation Implementation Handbook, which has just been kind of written and launched worldwide. So, as a part of a give back, what we thought is that we will write a book in terms of how we can kind of take our experiences in terms of the digital part of it, which we've been there for the past 3 decades, and take it to the digitally kind of underserved more in terms of a kind of a give back towards community and vocational service. I just want to go and ask Abhishek in terms of the foundations, in terms of business processes. What are his thoughts in terms of being the foundation layer for an enterprise?
So I think if we look at India, since you spoke about this book in Indian context to a greater extent, if we look at India, the digitization in India was primarily around accounting and a little bit about inventory management. If we talk about masses, obviously larger enterprises have gone far ahead and done a lot. But let's talk about the masses. So I think the change that we have seen in last few years is that there has been a massive change in the mindset. People are going beyond accounting. They understand that digital can do a lot more. So people are looking at business process automation. They are looking at business process workflow management. I also see a lot of effort put into CRM management because people want to now better manage their customers, the relationships, the engagement with their customers. A lot of marketing automation is coming in now. So people are trying to use tools for structuring their marketing, measuring their marketing, as because most of the marketing is also now moving to digital, as you see. So I think the change in last 2 years more specifically has been exponentially high, and of course it has been building up for last 5-6 years, but in last 2 years have actually changed the whole scenario to a great extent.
Abhishek rightly talked about the importance of the CRM systems, which is basically, customers are our bread in terms of bread and butter in terms of our business. So, how do we kind of manage, track, automate, and engage our association in terms of the engagement so that they be with us and take it forward? So, Abhishek, what are your thoughts in terms of getting a combination of both of them into a platform and then taking out the insights?
So I think insights, definitely I'll talk about insights, but insights come a little late. I think the first thing that businesses need to start doing is to understand their customer, basically slicing, dicing to understand what sector, what segment, which geography, how they contribute to their business, what they can do better, how they can arrange their sales force, how they can arrange their customer servicing teams to be a better service provider, and also how do they value the better customers more, and how do they work towards the smaller customers to see if they have potential. So I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done with the very basic amount of data which lies in the CRM itself. Second is that obviously a lot of businesses need to use CRM also to continually track the engagement with the customer at different types of engagement. So an engagement can start with registering an order, to a issue that has been raised by the customer, to the delivery and logistics and transaction at that end. So I think you need to cover all these and have a single system of record where you can see what is going on with the customer. I think that is number one. Once you have done that, then comes the aspect of trying to get insights from the data, right? It has been known, it has been a very known fact that we have almost tons and tons of data, but we are not getting the insights out of that. So the availability of data is not a challenge. The moment you talk about data analytics, I think the companies go to a back foot and they start thinking, how will they get the data? I think data is already there. A lot of data is there, and if you start analyzing them, itself you will get huge amount of insights, and you will and you will be able to figure out what to do next. So I think it's not a matter of what this data say. It's what you need to understand is that to understand what this data really mean to you, right? Because the same piece of data can mean different thing to different people. Once you understand what this data mean to you, and you will be able to use it in your business decisions. So insight without business decision is useless. So that is where I'm saying that first of all we have to look at this, and then when you talk about unstructured data we can also look at that, but I think there's a huge opportunity which lies right now at the structured data side. And small businesses somehow feel that data analytics is only for the big boys, it is not for them. I think that thought process has to go, and this will not go by itself. It will need time. These people need to see the outcome of the data that they have got. So applications have to be built which basically uses the data and guides the user, rather than just basically create a system which is a system of record.
So hence, the importance of data is to be understood and kind of monetized. So in terms of the base data, basically, which is the structured data, we have the very well defined the ERP, the SCRM, the supply chain management systems, which kind of collate it together. And now data is being hosted onto the cloud, in which there is a lot of benefits in terms of whereby you don't need to own kind of the hardware, the software, the people managing it, the infrastructure, and also have the benefits of the service level acceptance of having the uptime of the systems at say over 95, 96, 97%. So as a result, what happens is that you focus on your core work, which is, it could be manufacturing, it could be kind of talking to your customers, getting more benefits out of it, etc. In terms of services, how do you render enhanced services, and not worry about the non-technical part of it, which is left on to the experts. Abhishek, what do you feel in terms of the government initiatives in terms of taking it forward? Because India is also becoming, we are aiming to become a $5 trillion economy, and we are currently the top 5 economy. So what are the thought processes there?
I think the government has shown a lot of positivity towards adoption of digital and the different facets of the digital economy in our governance tools. If you see the India stack that we popularly call it, which includes different products, including the UPI, and now we are talking about ONDC, and we also are talking about the Sehmati platform. So there are a lot of different things which are coming into a platform which we can access, and as developers we can access, and also as consumers we can access. I think this is one of its kind initiative in the world, where the government is coming forward and building the platform and the infrastructure for citizens as well as the development organizations and businesses to collaborate together to kind of digitize the whole ecosystem. And I think that is pushing India ahead in the race of digitization by several notches. So if you see, UPI has by far become the most important payment system in the world today, which is also threatening the well-entrenched credit card companies. So when I ride a cab, I would rather pay by UPI because it takes few seconds rather than I take out my card and swipe it there. People are even using UPI to pay to street vendors. The adoption of UPI does not need a card swipe machine. It does not need many of those sophisticated tools that were created, to create a payment system. So I think, and I see very similar adoption of interesting platforms like Sehmati and aggregators, because it gives you complete single view of a customer. So think about data which is coming out for underwriting of loans. In any other country, just to do that, you will have to write hundreds and thousands of lines of code. You will have to engage with several API connections, several different providers. Here one single connection you have a PAN number, you can get anything and everything about that particular consumer, and you can use that data to underwrite any loan or any transaction for that person, or any you can understand the overall usage pattern of that individual. I think this is tremendous. The only thing that I'm a little not so happy about, if I can say that, is that somehow Web3 has been a little sidelined in terms of its scope. I think the government understands very clearly, and I appreciate that the government understands that Web3 and crypto are two different things altogether. So it's great that they are keeping it separate, but I think they should go out and promote Web3 in a much, much bigger way, and in fact even build platforms around Web3, so that we can promote distributed autonomous organizations, we can create tokenization of different assets. I think there's a hell lot of things that can be done on Web3, provided government starts backing it with the same passion as it has backed payments.
So cloud is an important chapter in the book, which we have kept for the understanding what is hybrid cloud, what is public cloud, what are the benefits, what are the pros and the cons. So it acts as a ready reference, kind of a reckoner for entrepreneurs, for people who want to kind of use tech, especially a lot of startups who come from non-tech backgrounds but want to adopt technologies to scale up and to kind of take their products forward. How do they kind of move into the cloud? Abhishek, what are your thoughts about the products? How does that work, or SaaS, if we look at it? What do you feel would be the adoption and the scope in the future?
SaaS is a new business model as terms as buyers are concerned in India. For them, paying for a software every month or every year is a little alienated concept. I'm again talking about majority of the businesses. And a lot of people want more control. They want more, they want to kind of do it a fixed cost, and then maybe a little bit of a maintenance cost around it. And if you see, in recent years, we have also seen Intuit, which was a major accounting software company, global accounting software company, who literally had to move out of India, was primarily because the Indian model for accounting software, the habit of Indian consumer is about paying once and then paying the maintenance cost. Whereas Intuit, of course, is a SaaS business model. And that was one of the challenge. And second, of course, was that Intuit had to run in a SaaS business model because the changes they had to do in terms of modifications due to regulatory changes and environmental changes was massive. And you cannot run that business on a fixed cost plus AMC model. So SaaS will take its own time to get into real adoption unless companies come with innovative products which are of real use to the businesses and they are priced right. So Indian adoption will be a little slow, but there are some very interesting companies which has proved it otherwise, and I really wish that they keep proving it otherwise and new companies come in and kind of go into the market. But it is going to be very important for them to be profit making businesses. So just by making losses and changing habit is not going to work, because the habit is not about using SaaS, the habit is about paying for SaaS, which has to be a recurring monthly or quarterly payments. And I think that is something that SaaS founders have to crack if they want to sell their products in India.
So yes, the adoption is a challenge because people need to kind of do it, but it's a quick model in which it solves a lot of problems, and basically it talks to a number of systems. So I think the adoption of APIs also is taking place. That is a big change in terms of data and its integration to the unstructured part of it. And there is a lot of scope in the future. So we talked initially about the importance of data and its monetization. And I think API and connected systems is going to be the part of the next wave where we need to kind of think about it and adopt it. And it forms an important chapter in terms of IoT. There is a lot of work going on in that area. In my lab, there is a bunch of young entrepreneurs who are working on IoT systems, in trying to design its gateways in terms of getting data from the sensors and then putting it onto the cloud, which helps in visualization. Thereby, you can get certain thresholds or workflows in terms of if there are any deviations, how to kind of adapt. What are your thoughts on IoT?
Again, IoT is a very interesting evolution of technology, but I think it was always there. I think what has changed, so we had embedded systems earlier, as we know. I think what has changed is its connectivity to internet, cheaper hardware, and the speed. I think these are the three big changes, frankly speaking, and we are kind of putting the same embedded systems in a new avatar, which we are calling IoT. So IoT, I think, was very important earlier. It is currently very important. It will remain important. But I think what is more important on top of IoT is the analytics layer. Our ability to read data from devices on a regular basis as a stream of data and analyze that, evaluate that, and create insights and then create actions on top of it. I think that is tremendous. And now the whole ability to write this entire layer of software is getting in hands of very early stage developers. Right? Earlier, if you had to be really an embedded programmer and someone who would write intelligent systems using embedded programming, you had to have a lot of experience, and it was out of reach of many low-end developers or early developers. But I think now, you can read data from anywhere, you can mishmash data from different sources, you can create data models, you can create intelligent systems. I think it's kind of very liberating, if I can use the word. So yeah, I think there will be a lot of innovation that will continue to happen here, and lot of so now application layer thinking is coming, because earlier it was more infrastructure layer problems that people were solving. Now I think we are moving to application layer problem solving and business layer problem solving.
Yeah. And a lot of work also in terms of supply chain processes, the adoption at the factory level. In fact, we are kind of pushing for supply chain automation, because that is typically the area in which a lot of development can take place, but it is slightly behind. So we want, actually, in terms of the adoption of the book as a first step, to go to the factory workers, by which they can understand and appreciate what is the scope of the digital framework. Point number one. Point number two is the adoption by them, so that their businesses, in terms of productivity, in terms of outputs, can be scaled up. So as a result, India overall becomes self-sufficient, not only domestically, but also from an export competitive wise. What do you feel about supply chain automation in terms of the scope which is there in front of us?
I think supply chain automation again is a function of how we use digital, how we use workflow, how we use data analytics, all these things together to solve complex problems of demand and supply, and how do we move things from one place to another. If you see, a lot of innovation has happened in India in terms of, and these have happened from very, very young founders and entrepreneurs who are actually disrupting the way logistics and supply chain is handled in India. You look at companies like Shiprocket, you look at companies like Zepto, you look at what Swiggy is doing. All these things are not only adding convenience on one side, providing employment on the other side, but also disrupting the whole supply chain system on the other, on one side, right? I also see traditional industries like marine also getting disrupted in a big way. It's just that that change is happening under the radar. We don't talk about a lot. These are not industries that are in our eyes all the time, but changes are happening on that side also. And I see again, there is a lot of change which is in the wings, which is riding on Web3, which basically helps and connects all these different stakeholders of the logistics industry, so that everybody can be true to themselves and the other partners, and we can have seamless transaction between them. So I see, obviously, logistics and all the changes that happen, we can only experience when we get a parcel within 24 hours of ordering on Amazon.com, or when such incidents happen, right? but there's a lot of engineering going behind the scene to make it happen. So I think it will continue to evolve. We are far from being perfect there, and I'm very hopeful and looking forward.
So there are also chapters in the book which talks about the data and its intelligence, which we talked briefly, and the layer about AI, the important layer in which data is being read, data is being assimilated, data is being kind of put into dashboards for kind of taking actions, and outputs are resulting in human like kind of intelligence, but controlled by humans. It is not that everything is being automated and humans have got no role to play. So AI is a kind of a layer which is an enabler in terms of, again, leading towards our productivity, towards our how do we kind of scale up if we look at it from an enterprise perspective. So the controls are very much important also. So what are your thoughts about the AI and the importance going forward?
So of course, the AI is a third step forward in terms of building intelligent systems. So first is analytics. The second is building machine learning frameworks on top of it. And the third one is basically artificial intelligence. So I think we are far from artificial intelligence in many subjects and many systems, and it needs that resilient work to by on one step each at a time to reach there. And you need a lot of data to reach there. That's one. Second is that AI, in my opinion, in the initial several years would be, in my definition, assisted intelligence rather than artificial intelligence. So a lot of times, right, it will assist us in doing our job better. At times it will automate, but at times it will also just assist us, give us guidance, show us the way based on certain trends and certain signals. So see, what actually happens in our own life, as we call that, a particular person has got a lot of experience. What is this experience all about? The experience is about looking at data, looking at things, looking at circumstances and saying, okay, if this is what is happening around me, this is what might happen next, and this is how we should respond to it. What is all this about? It's about experience, right? And basically converting that experience into actionable insights, that this is what we're supposed to do, right? So with experience, what we are actually doing is converting light signals into stronger signals. The more experience and the more understanding we have, the better we are able to look at things, how we are able to process it in our mind, and how we are able to take decisions based on that data. So it's basically amplification of signals so that we are able to take decisions. I think in the initial several years from now, we will see a lot of this signal amplification based on data that is being consumed by the machine, which is where the amplification algorithm is written by, through the machine learning algorithms, where it understands the data better so that it can basically signal it out for you. So I think this is, in my understanding, it is going to be a step-by-step process to get there. And and it will be exciting to see when machines are able to do more than what it is doing today. And it liberates us to do, I would say, more emotional jobs than intelligent jobs.
And the last part of it is actually in terms of, cyber part of it, which is a buzzword actually, and everybody is concerned about it, including individuals, enterprises, and how do we kind of go about it. There is a chapter on cyber security, the framework, and people need to be kind of conscious. People need to put in security kind of operating systems, check out heat maps to see what is kind of activities which is not regular, right? So it could be certain employees who is sending out data from the network. So there should be some heat maps, or there should be some checks and controls so that we can manage it. Just like we keep our houses secure, right? So we lock up our houses in the night before we retire, so to prevent unauthorized people to come in. It's the same principle. So, because we are being so dependent on data, we now need to be very careful in terms of how to manage it and progress it. So, at the end of it, they should see the success so that they can ride on top of it. In terms of your experience, what should be some of the ideas which we should do in terms of project implementations?
So I think, see, project implementation again is a science which is not a perfect science as such, right? Because it have human elements into it. So I think it's a combination of understanding the objective of the project sponsor, understanding the objective of the project stakeholders, as well as the financial aspects of it. Now there has been different project management methodology which has come in past. So we have seen the traditional waterfall model, then we have seen the agile methodologies which have come in, the scrums, and now we also see a combination of these. We also see a new generation which is kind of believing on tools like Trello and tools like Slack to in fact run the whole project. So there is no one, there is no silver bullet to project management. I think it's horses for courses. So it depends on what kind of project you are doing, what is the complexity level of the project, what is the comfort zone of the people who are involved in the project, and what kind of data and reporting you want to really bring out of it. So yeah, I think project management, of course, it's a very important skill, but it can be done at different levels and using different types of tools.
Correct. So I think change management is very important because it is basically changing the way people are, basically used to a pattern of working. So how do they adapt to the new ways of working? So that itself is an art. So digital transformation is actually a big buzzword now being used across, industry, across segments. And a lot of the employees are finding it very difficult to get all the components. So we had a great session today to cover these areas, which is actually there in the book, Digital Transformation Implementation Handbook. And I encourage all the viewers to read it and provide us a review in terms of what they feel, how do they want to go about it in the future. And we've also got a lot of skills and expertise in terms of deployments. I myself have a firm called Strategic Services, which does consulting work on technology-based projects, on data. And Abhishek will actually talk a bit about his firm in terms of the areas of work which you're doing.
Sure. So INT is a 25-year-old company which basically provide product engineering for financial services and life sciences companies, and we have been building complex systems for startups as well as when entrenched companies in the market for last several years, and they are running billions of transactions every month. So yeah, we have got a big responsibility on ourselves. Thank you.
So wishing you all the best in the future. The next 25 years belong to us to scale it forward. And I think technology and digital adoption would be the key drivers to it. All the best. Thank you.
All the best. Thank you.